Andrew Callahan is the Patriots reporter columnist for the Boston Herald. Boston Herald.
Stuck the landing. Nice job.
And he joins us on the Volkswagen dealer, the tabloid one, the one that's not the one that's the
one that has a back page. You know,
that's right.
That you look at a back page
that we all enjoy. Andrew Callahan from the Boston Herald.
One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the great Boston Herald. Andrew Callahan. Hello, sir.
Hello, and for the record, I have no objection, Fred, to you sounding stupid. So if you want to fire away, take the first answer to your own question in this interview.
Yeah, but I have I have the propensity to be stupid, so I'm starting to catch it. You understand what I'm saying? And you can't. I think you might be a little hesitant to because you're probably not a psychopath. A little hesitant to just go like, "Ooh, this guy's a real moron," and say it out loud or under your breath or something on the radio. So I'm not leading you in any direction here. What is your feeling on Bill O'Brien? Saying like, look, I don't know. It's the active roster on a game day. I got no say in it.
Well, as a person who asked him that question, I think he was being honest. And the part of the reason I asked him that was a couple of weeks ago. We remember the whole Malik Cunningham fiasco of, he's our number 2 quarterback. Then we're going to cut him 2 days later. You know, Bill had made a point there to say those decisions are out of my hands. That was a Matt Groh and Bill Belichick decision. So, you know, I don't think Bill is going around to every single assistant's office being like, hey, do you have a second? Like, what do you think? I think Belichick's going to do what he does. But, you know, Bill O'Brien was brought in here with Robert Kraft's say and at his initiative. So I wondered if he might have a little bit more input at the deadline than any other assistant. And he made clear to say, again, no input for me on the roster.
Is he passing the buck a little bit? Because I wouldn't want anyone to think I was involved in the personal decisions.
Well, Bill Belichick basically did that yesterday. He was being asked about it, and he even said something like, well, I'm not even, I can't possibly be in charge of both coaching and all of the personnel, which was odd.
It seems like no one wants to take credit, which goes into the
take blame.
You're right, exactly. Take blame for what's going on, and beyond that, does that mean that this whole Grohl thing is not maybe the best either?
Well, I would just say this. If Bill O'Brien, if you're assuming he's passing the buck, I mean, what would he say if he was actually just flat out telling the truth?
No, he's telling the truth, but, like, he likes being able to tell the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like you go – because you asked – it was a good question. That's why we're focusing on it. I didn't even know you asked it, to be honest with you. So congratulations on that. But
thank you.
But do you think that, like, there's a part of him – you know what I'm saying? That's like, hey, guys, this isn't my fault. Like, there's a lot of weird crap going on that's not me.
I'll put it to you like this. There have been frustrations, not necessarily with Bill O'Brien, but between the coaching staff and what they've been handed by the front office at different parts of the season. And I think we all see it on the field. Like, I say that, and that might come as a surprise to some folks listening on the other end. But we all see a 2-6 football team. We all saw an offensive line that had a turnstile at right tackle last year. And what do we see this season? The same thing. So it's difficult for a lot of people involved, and especially those closest to it day to day, especially when they have no say.
Okay, before we get to the trade deadline inactivity from the Patriots, I want to see what your opinion is of Josh McDaniels potentially coming back to the Patriots. Because after the news broke last night, for the people just now waking up, Josh McDaniels out. So is Dave Ziegler at GM over there in Las Vegas. Do you see there being any sort of reunion, him coming back?
Both of them.
Well, okay. Well, I don't care as much about Dave Ziegler, but the Josh McDaniels thing I find interesting. Do you see him this season potentially coming back to help the Patriots as a consultant?
So, as best I remember the story, the prodigal son came back once. Because I think the second time they said, okay, no, that can't happen. We can't. This is too much. You've left. You've come back. You screwed up again. You get one chance. You blow it. And I think with Josh McDaniels, personally, I think he needs to reset for the rest of the season. I mean, there were people who advised Matt Patricia after last year's debacle who had said, do not go back to New England. Like, the best thing you can do is get as far away from that place as possible. And forget all of the history and the bad position he was put in. The point was that might be a sinking ship. So for Josh McDaniels to come back, I don't think is a great move because people in the league can see that's the only place he's had success. But I think people still think highly enough of him to be like, hey, if you want to be our quarterback's coach, like, that might be available to him. And that doesn't sound great for a guy who was just the head man, but this stint lasted shorter than his one in Denver, which was one of the most scandal-ridden and worst tenures we've seen in recent NFL history. So this was bad. I think that's the point he's at, and I think it's best for him to probably go elsewhere.
Don't you think also, like, if you were in his family, wouldn't you be like, dude, just get away from everything? Like, you're rich. Like, go get away from football. Get away from cameras. Just,
Mark Davis could be paying you.
Like Las Vegas and just gamble and go to, wherever.
Yeah, lose it all. Like, just go and unless you're sharp, and then go turn that $45 million into $1 billion.
Right.
With your inside knowledge of the of sports betting. All right, so Rich mentioned it. The trade deadline was yesterday. There's a lot to get to. So apparently no one called on Mac Jones. Did you hear that, and what do you make of that?
Yeah, I never, ever understood that from the Patriots' perspective. Because, look, they don't want to start Mac Jones. They benched him twice in weeks 4 and week 5, and I would have to assume he's the only quarterback in NFL history to survive that and start week 6. And the reason he starts week 6 is because they've shown you, they've shown me, they've shown everyone watching they don't believe in their backups. Bailey Zappi got cut at the end of training camp. Then he was a healthy scratch in week 6. And then the backup that week, Malik Cunningham, got cut 2 days later and is back in the practice squad. So they don't have any other options. And if you're another team on the outside, I don't know why you would want to trade for Mac Jones, so you'll have to decide this fifth-year option. Like, there's a lot to this, and none of it makes sense for why the Patriots would have traded Mac.
Yeah, but do you think it's an indictment at all on Mac Jones that no one reached out?
I mean, the indictment on Mac Jones is the stuff that, on the field you want to tie to the offensive line and the receivers, whatever. Part of it is absolutely his fault. Well, but, he hurt his own stock last year with all of the complaining and the whining. I mean, you can't sell like a locker room on this kid who's now known as a dirty player across the league and is having outbursts on the field. So, yeah, I would say it's partly an indictment on him because the tiebreaker goes to not the whiny player.
Okay, so how much there's something in the ringer. I'm just giving you a national thing that says the Patriots are losers at the deadline because they didn't do anything, which they're inferring means that Belichick is chasing the phantom record, which it depends what record he wants to break. There's one record he ain't breaking under any circumstances. But do you think that they should have done something? And if they didn't, and since they didn't do something, do you think that it's because Belichick wants this record?
Yes, and partially yes. I mean, I was on the record 2 weeks ago after that Vegas loss being like, time of death, 147 left in the fourth quarter, Mac Jones flat on his back, you're 1-5, the season is lost. It's time to sell. And I felt that same way after the Miami game because they lost that game in free agency. They lost that game in the draft. Miami is that much more talented, and the Patriots lost 6 to 7 of them just as they had lost 6 to 7 to Buffalo. And okay, you beat the Bills. You got the Bills at a good time, nice signature win for Mac Jones. But this season is not going anywhere. And instead of fighting every single step down into the sewer, I would say just take the ride, get down there as fast as possible, pick up a couple trade assets on the way. Because I'll leave you with this too. The agency that represents Kyle Duggar is the same that represents Josh Uche. And there's a difficult history between that agency and the Patriots front office when it comes to extensions. The fact that they did not get signed in the summer and are now enduring the worst season of their careers does not bode well, in my opinion, for a team that could have traded them. And if they really wanted to pony up, could have re-signed him in any way when they become free agents with another team. And they haven't done it.
What do you think they were offered for Uche?
Well, I don't think it was what I heard from one high-ranking front office executive, which was a third-round pick, because that's what Chase Young went for.
There's no way.
Yeah, there's no
way.
chance they offered a third for him. No.
Right. Now, a fourth was something that not only I had heard as a third or fourth-round pick, but Doug Hyde of the Herald had heard. And so
people
I would
really
think,
like him as a pass rusher.
But
and
why
think
wouldn't
the
they take that?
Used him. Yeah, why
wouldn't you take a fourth-round pick?
That's it, because you're not using him like another team would use him.
Exactly. And that's where I see this, is if let's say you're a four-down defense, right? Like it's the same four guys are rushing time and again. You pin your ears back and go nuts. Like that's a team that Josh Uche belongs on. As far as why the Patriots didn't take that, you could point to all the advanced metrics and be like, this guy might even be better than that. He outranks on a per-snap basis this season. Guys like even T.J. Watt for a stretch, or even Matt Judon.
Not Bryce Huff, but yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, right. Beats his man more often than not. So, I don't know that they definitively got a fourth-round pick for him. But again, based on estimations from several people that I talked to and Doug talked to, around the league about these players who had no ties to the Patriots, they were like, yeah, mid-round pick seems reasonable, and the Patriots just didn't want to part ways. And they don't know how to use him. The guy can't play more than 38% of the snaps in any single season and hasn't yet. Like that's a guy you should deal.
Why wasn't Robert Kraft more involved? I mean, he's a very smart guy. He sees what's happening, and I would bet if you put a gun to his head, he would agree with you. Take the ride down to the sewer as quick as possible. You'll get back faster.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that, Johnny. He thought this was a Super Bowl team.
Well, he said, I want to make the playoffs.
He thought
during the summer.
Unless you think the people that I've talked to and the people that Giardi has talked to, and I talked to, you think they're liars. Bob Kraft was running around thinking they were going to the Super Bowl.
All right, so let's ask Andrew Callahan. Where is RKK's mind at, and should he have gotten involved yesterday or not?
Again, I'm on the record saying yes. I think he should have ordered them to sell and say whatever you can get for Josh Uche and whatever you can get for, now he's hurt, Kendrick Bourne, a guy going into his last year who I'm not sure is even going to re-sign after tearing his ACL. Get what you can, because this season is lost. We need a direction. That direction starts next offseason, and we need to have as many trade assets as possible. And these players in expiring contracts do not count among assets, because when they walk, we're not going to get comp picks.
Right.
Because we're going to sign a bunch of players. It's going to negate those picks coming in on the way out. So I don't know, but I think he should have been involved. The one reason why he may not have been involved is just to say, look, if Bill is going to kind of hang himself here, I don't want my fingerprints anywhere in that rope, because if this is 4-13, and I'm not rooting for this, again, I don't care whether Bill stays or if he goes. He's one of the most interesting main characters in the history of the NFL. But the point is, if you're Robert Kraft, it's an easier sell to a fan base if you were standing back and just let this whole operation implode and go, yeah, Bill was at the center of it. I let him do what he wants, as I always have, and this is how it went. And there's no way to argue against firing a coach or GM at 4-13, 5-12, whatever it might be, or better. But I think Robert is just letting it play out.
Finally, Andrew, what are the chances that the Patriots could actually sign Kyle Duggar or Mike Onwenu here in the offseason or during this season, seeing that they're going to be free agents?
Tons of cap space.
Yeah, what are the chances they could do that?
Are you guys sick of the cap space talk?
Yes.
Like, I only got there recently, but it's just like what
are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? But young players that are elite don't go to free agents.
Are they going to spend it on Mike Onwenu and Kyle Duggar?
So if you were representing them, what would you say? Because I would tell them don't sign anything right now. And that starts with Mike Onwenu playing right tackle, a position that's going to land a much more lucrative contract than if he sticks at guard. And if you're the Patriots, you seemingly have gotten to your ceiling anyway because you haven't signed these guys to an offer. As for Kyle Duggar, I find it difficult that he comes back because as central as he is to this defense, and mind you, he took over the play calling duties when Juwan Bentley went down in Miami. He's 27. He knows his next contract is going to be the only big contract for the rest of his NFL career. He needs to maximize this window. So why would he take less? And why would he take less for a team that doesn't have a quarterback of the future? And it's, again, enduring the worst record of his season, like it's of his career. Like it's not a place that I think you would jump to sign unless you were being handed a bag. And what do we know the Patriots don't do? Generally hand out bags.
And by the way, and you mentioned, yes, they should just get it over with now and tank and traded assets. This goes to show you, because you're missing those three guys next year, literally who's on this team. Like literally who are you building around? You're focused completely on next year's draft. I mean, you this year's the draft you just had, the players you got in that draft, and the players you're going to get in the next draft. So because you've lost everyone else. Yeah. So you're going to suck worse next year than you do this year.
And now the rebuild, which should have been 2 or 3 years, is now going to be about 7.
Well, it should have. They shouldn't.
Well, it's not that long, but the Patriots also protected against Duggar, Uche, and Onwenu leaving
by
when they drafted
instead of drafting need, though. But instead of drafting need. Instead of drafting offensive line or drafting a quarterback, they I understand what you're saying, that they protected against losing good younger players, but is that the way you would have operated the business? I don't think so. I think that you would have drafted for need and then maybe kept guys around that had actually lived up to their contracts.
Right, but my point is, this is why I think they're going to walk.
I get it.
The Patriots are drafting. Yeah. But the other part about this is, I like Kyle Duggar a lot. He's a top 5 player in this team. Mike Onwenu is probably just outside. Josh Uche, on a per snap basis, sure. But again, he doesn't play enough to be part of that conversation.
Right.
I would ask you this. who are the core players? Who are the tent pole players that are propping up the rest of the roster? As I see it now, there are two. One of whom is Matt Judon, who is on the wrong side of not just 30, but 31.
Right.
And Christian Gonzalez, who has played like 3.25 games, and we've all decided is going to make all pros until he decides not to. And that's probably a little hyperbolic. But the point is, it might just be those two players.
Where's
and so as good as
Barnwell?
Duggar and Uche are,
Then that's
like
what we're
there's no
saying.
one else
Right.
that you build around. And if there are guys in contract years who are not going to net you assets when they walk out in free agency, at least have you walk out the door and have a draft pick coming in as they leave in late October. Because we all know where the season's going to go.
And can you imagine if they go like all out in free agency again and you just they win 8 games next year and then you're like, oh boy. Yeah. Here we go.
Or just re-sign these guys in free agency. You know, like they could still do that.
I would re-sign
Kyle Duggar around.
Listen, draft, develop, keep the guys through the one contract, the second contract, and then move contract. On. I mean, it's not crazy. All right, Andrew Callahan from the Boston Herald.
Nailed it.
Talks about the Patriots. Thank you, Andrew Callahan.
Thank you, guys.